For nearly 2 centuries, John Deere has been the heart of American farming. Its green machines have tilled fields, harvested crops, and helped build a multi-billion-dollar industry. For generations, farmers have trusted the company, not just as a brand but as a partner in their livelihoods. But today, that trust is shattering. Layoffs, outsourcing, spiraling equipment costs, a deepening economic crisis that threatens the $34 billion U.S. farming sector. Farmers are feeling abandoned. The very company they relied on is now pricing them out of the market, restricting their ability to repair their own equipment and moving jobs overseas. Rural America is on edge, and a battle is brewing over the future of agriculture. John Deere's latest moves have set off a chain reaction that could permanently reshape farming in America. Farmers are fighting back, politicians are taking sides, and industry leaders are scrambling to adjust. So, how did we get here? How did one of the most trusted names in farming become a symbol of corporate greed and economic uncertainty? And what does this mean for the future of American agriculture? In this deep dive, we will explore the reasons behind John Deere's mass layoffs and outsourcing to Mexico, why the company's restrictive repair policies are pushing farmers away, the collapse of crop prices, and how China's rise is reshaping global agriculture, Trump's fiery response and the political war over U.S. manufacturing, whether John Deere can recover, or if this is the beginning of its downfall. With America's heartland in crisis, the stakes have never been higher. The legacy of John Deere. More than just a company. John Deere is more than just a brand, it's a legend in American agriculture. Founded in 1837, the company revolutionized farming with its steel plow, making it easier for farmers to break through tough Midwestern soil. Over the decades, John Deere became a household name, standing for durability, innovation, and reliability. For generations, families passed down their John Deere tractors like heirlooms. The company's iconic green and yellow machines symbolize progress and prosperity, helping turn the United States into one of the world's largest agricultural powerhouses. But times have changed. Today, John Deere is not just a farming company, it's a global corporation, valued at over $100 billion. And like many corporations, its priorities have shifted. Farmers who once saw John Deere as a trusted partner now see it as just another multinational chasing profits at their expense. So what went wrong? The cracks begin to show: economic and industry challenges. Over the past decade, the farming industry has faced unprecedented challenges. Rising fuel costs, increased tariffs, extreme weather events, and shifting global trade policies have put pressure on American farmers like never before. The problem? Farming is not just an industry, it's a way of life. And when the economy shifts, farmers don't have the luxury of just shutting down and walking away. Here are some of the biggest economic factors that have rocked American farming. Soaring equipment costs. A new John Deere tractor can cost anywhere from $250,000 to $800,000. Farmers are taking on massive debt just to afford the equipment they need. Plummeting crop prices, corn, wheat, and soybean prices have all dropped significantly, cutting deep into farmers' profits. Rising input costs, fuel, fertilizer, and pesticides have all become more expensive due to inflation and supply chain disruptions. Trade wars and tariffs, political conflicts, especially with China, have disrupted global exports, leaving farmers without reliable buyers. Corporate consolidation. The farming industry is increasingly dominated by a few major players, making it harder for small farms to compete. John Deere, once seen as a beacon of stability in uncertain times, is now at the center of this crisis. Rather than supporting farmers, the company has made moves that many see as prioritizing profits over people, and it all started with a wave of mass layoffs. The wave of layoffs, how it affected rural America. John Deere has long been one of the biggest employers in small-town America. Its factories provided steady, well-paying jobs to thousands of workers across the Midwest. But that stability is vanishing. In recent years, John Deere has slashed over 4,500 jobs in the United States. Just this year, nearly 200 workers in Iowa were laid off due to production slowdowns. For the towns built around John Deere factories, these cuts have been devastating. When a factory closes or cuts jobs, the impact isn't just felt by the workers, it ripples throughout the entire community. Families struggle to pay their mortgages and bills. Local businesses see sales drop as fewer people have disposable income. Towns lose tax revenue, leading to school closures and budget cuts. For decades, these communities thrived because of John Deere. Now, many are being left behind. But why is John Deere cutting jobs when it's still a massively profitable company? The answer lies in its decision to outsource production to Mexico. And that's where the controversy really explodes. John Deere's Mexico move, corporate strategy or betrayal. John Deere's decision to move part of its manufacturing to Mexico was met with fierce backlash. The company claims it's about efficiency, reducing costs and staying competitive. But for American workers, it feels like a betrayal. Moving operations to Mexico means cheaper labor and lower production costs, but at what cost to American workers? For decades, John Deere prided itself on being a made-in-America company. Now many see it as abandoning the very workers and farmers who made it successful in the first place. This move didn't just anger workers, it caught the attention of former President Donald Trump. And in classic Trump fashion, he had a big response: Trump's threat, a 200% tariff on John Deere. At a recent rally, Trump didn't hold back. If John Deere thinks they can take American jobs and move them to Mexico, they're in for a rude awakening. He then threatened to impose a 200% tariff on John Deere imports if the company followed through with its outsourcing plans. The announcement sent shockwaves through the industry. Investors panicked, and John Deere's stock dropped overnight. Would the company back down, or would it push forward despite the risks? John Deere's Mexico move, corporate strategy or betrayal. John Deere's decision to relocate part of its manufacturing to Mexico sent shockwaves through the farming community. For decades, the company prided itself on being deeply rooted in the heart of American agriculture, symbolizing stability and strength. But now, farmers and workers alike feel abandoned. The official reason? Cost-cutting and global competitiveness. John Deere argues that moving certain production lines, like cab assembly to Mexico, allows it to reduce costs while keeping high-tech manufacturing in the United States. The company claims this will make it more efficient and better positioned for long-term success. But American workers aren't buying it. Many believe this move is about corporate greed, not survival. John Deere remains highly profitable, with billions in revenue each year. The decision to shift jobs across the border feels less like an economic necessity and more like a betrayal of the very people who made the company successful. The impact on American workers and farmers. For factory workers, the layoffs are a direct and devastating hit, but for farmers the problem is different. Many see this move as a sign that John Deere is no longer looking out for them. If the company is willing to cut American jobs, what else will it cut? Will they outsource even more parts of production, leading to a decline in quality? Could this be the first step toward moving the entire operation overseas? These concerns aren't unfounded. Many companies that start outsourcing eventually increase their reliance on foreign manufacturing. Farmers fear that within a decade, John Deere tractors could be made mostly in Mexico, China, or other low-cost regions, and then came the political firestorm. Trump's threat, a 200% tariff on John Deere. When news of John Deere's Mexico move broke, it didn't take long for former President Donald Trump to weigh in. Known for his hardline stance on American jobs and manufacturing, Trump saw this as an attack on United States workers, and he fired back with a massive threat. At a recent rally, Trump declared, if John Deere thinks they can take American jobs and move them to Mexico, they're in for a rude awakening. Then came the real shock, a proposed 200% tariff on John Deere imports. The idea was simple. If John Deere wanted to manufacture in Mexico, they would pay the price when trying to sell those products back in the United States. This would make it nearly impossible for Deere to profit from outsourcing, forcing the company to rethink its decision. What would a 200% tariff mean? If such a tariff were imposed, the consequences would be massive. John Deere's costs would skyrocket. The company would have to either absorb the costs, reducing profits, or pass them on to farmers, raising prices even further. Farmers would be hit hardest. Equipment prices are already high. This could push them even further out of reach for small and mid-sized farmers. Foreign competitors would gain an advantage. Brands like Kubota, Case IH, and AGCO could swoop in and take market share by offering lower prices. Deere's global strategy would collapse. Moving operations abroad would no longer be profitable, potentially forcing the company to reverse course. Trump's announcement sent shockwaves through the industry. Investors panicked. John Deere's stock price dropped overnight. Farmers, workers, and trade experts began debating, would Deere back down? But this wasn't just a political battle. Farmers were taking matters into their own hands. Protests, boycotts, and the farmer rebellion. Across the Midwest, the backlash against John Deere exploded. Farmers organized protests outside dealerships, demanding that the company keep jobs in the U.S. Many stopped purchasing Deere equipment altogether. turning instead to competitors like Kubota. Many stopped purchasing Deere equipment altogether, turning instead to competitors like Case IH. Many stopped purchasing Deere equipment altogether, turning instead to competitors like AGCO. For decades, John Deere had enjoyed fierce brand loyalty, but that loyalty was now crumbling. The rise of the John Deere boycott. The frustration with Deere has grown so intense that many farmers are calling for a nationwide boycott. Some farmers are even selling their John Deere equipment and switching brands, buying older pre-software locked tractors that they can repair themselves, encouraging lawmakers to pass stronger right-to-repair laws. And they're not alone. Even John Deere employees joined the protests, fearing that more jobs would be lost in the future. For workers who have spent decades building Deere's machines, watching jobs vanish across the border feels like watching their entire livelihoods disappear in slow motion. But while farmers fight back, another force is quietly reshaping the industry, one that could be even more disruptive than outsourcing. The rise of China and the decline of U.S. agriculture. For most of the 20th century, the United States dominated global agriculture. American farmers fed not just their own country but much of the world. But now, that dominance is fading, and China is leading the charge. How China is replacing U.S. farmers. For years, the expectation was that China would become one of the biggest buyers of American crops. But instead of relying on U.S. imports, China has invested heavily in its own agriculture. With government support, China has boosted domestic food production at an unprecedented pace, developed advanced farming technology. China's new precision farming tools rival American brands and come at a fraction of the price, flooded the global market with cheap crops. This has driven down prices, hurting U.S. farmers who now struggle to compete. The result? China is importing less from the U.S. How this is devastating U.S. farmers. Corn prices have fallen 37% since 2022. Soybean prices have dropped 24%. Wheat prices are down 35%. For many farmers, this means razor-thin margins, or worse, going out of business entirely. Lower crop prices make it harder to justify spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on new machinery, which is why John Deere's sales are declining. And as China continues to gain strength in global agriculture, the situation is only getting worse. The future of farming, what happens next? With all these forces at play, the future of American farming hangs in the balance. Farmers are at a crossroads, John Deere is at a crossroads, and the entire U.S. agricultural system is being reshaped in real time. So what happens next? Possible scenarios for John Deere and American farming. 1. John Deere backs down and returns jobs to the U.S. If political and financial pressure mount, Deere may reverse its decision and reinvest in American manufacturing. This would restore some trust with farmers, but would Deere actually do it? 2. The John Deere boycott grows. If more farmers switch brands, John Deere could lose its grip on the market. Kubota, Case IH, and foreign brands gain ground. 3. The rise of automation and AI in farming. More farmers invest in autonomous tractors and AI-powered tools to cut labor costs. John Deere shifts focus toward high-tech farming, leaving traditional equipment behind. 4. Small farmers disappear, mega corporations take over. As costs rise, family farms struggle to survive. Large agribusinesses buy up more land, leading to the corporate takeover of U.S. farming. The future of American farming is at a turning point. Will John Deere recover? Will small farmers survive? Or are we witnessing the biggest shift in agriculture in modern history? The rise of foreign competitors. John Deere's market share under attack. For decades, John Deere was seen as the gold standard in agricultural machinery. If you were a serious farmer in America, you owned a John Deere tractor, harvester, or combine, no questions asked. But that is no longer the case. More and more farmers are ditching John Deere in favor of foreign brands, and the reason is simple: cost and repairability. The rise of Kubota, Case IH, and AGCO. Companies like Kubota from Japan, Case IH from the US and Italy, and AGCO from the US have been rapidly growing in the farming equipment market. Why? More affordable options. Farmers are already struggling with debt. They need equipment that is cheaper but still reliable. Better repairability. Unlike John Deere, Kubota and AGCO allow farmers to fix their own machines without expensive software restrictions. Strong financing options. Many competitors offer better loan structures for struggling farmers. And then there's China. China's growing dominance in farming equipment. For decades, John Deere dominated global farming, but China is quickly closing the gap, and in some areas, surpassing U.S. brands. Chinese manufacturers like YTO Group and Zoomlion are producing low-cost tractors and harvesters, sometimes half the price of John Deere's models. repair-friendly equipment, no restrictive software locks, making them more attractive to farmers. Subsidized sales, the Chinese government is heavily supporting its agricultural tech industry, making Chinese brands even cheaper on the global market. For developing countries, why buy a $500,000 John Deere tractor when they can get a Chinese-made alternative for $250,000? And this isn't just happening overseas. Even some U.S. farmers are starting to import Chinese tractors, fed up with Deere's high prices and restrictive policies. This could spell disaster for John Deere in the long run. But foreign competition isn't the only threat to John Deere and American farmers. There's another force that's about to revolutionize farming, one that could eliminate thousands of jobs forever. The automation revolution. Will AI replace farmers? As if farmers didn't have enough to worry about, a new wave of automation and artificial intelligence, or AI, is sweeping through agriculture. And John Deere is at the forefront of this transformation. The company has invested billions into self-driving tractors, AI-powered monitoring systems, and fully autonomous farming equipment. John Deere's push for fully automated farming. In recent years, John Deere has unveiled some groundbreaking new technology, including self-driving tractors. These autonomous machines can plow fields, plant seeds, and harvest crops without human intervention. AI-powered crop monitoring. Advanced sensors analyze soil health, moisture levels, and plant growth in real time. Automated pesticide and fertilizer sprayers. AI systems apply chemicals only where needed, cutting costs and reducing waste. For large corporate farms, this technology is game-changing. Lower labor costs. Machines don't need wages, benefits, or breaks. 24/7 farming. Unlike human workers, robots can operate day and night. Greater efficiency. AI reduces human error and improves crop yields. The dark side of automation. The death of farming jobs. But while automation is great for big agribusiness, it's a nightmare for farm workers and small farmers. Thousands of jobs could be lost. If machines take over planting, harvesting, and spraying, what happens to farmhands and laborers? Small farms can't afford automation. High-tech machines cost millions of dollars, a price only giant corporate farms can afford. The rich get richer, the small farms disappear. As big farms invest in AI, small farmers who can't afford it will struggle to compete. For many, this raises a frightening question. Is the future of farming one where small family farms disappear, replaced by massive robotic agribusinesses? And if small farms vanish, what happens to rural America? The answer to that question might already be playing out. The struggles of small farmers. Can they survive? For generations, small family farms were the backbone of American agriculture. But today, they are disappearing at an alarming rate. Over the past 40 years, the United States has lost more than 50% of its small farms. Why? High costs, equipment, seeds, fertilizer, and fuel are more expensive than ever. Falling crop prices, farmers are making less money for their harvests than they did 20 years ago. Corporate farming is taking over. Large agribusinesses buy up more land, pushing small farmers out. Debt is crushing farmers. Many are forced to take out massive loans, only to fall deeper into financial trouble. And now, with automation and foreign competition increasing, small farmers are being pushed to the brink. Many are making the heartbreaking decision to sell their land and leave farming behind. For those who stay, the future looks uncertain. But there's one more factor that could completely reshape farming as we know it, one that no farmer can control. Climate change, a new crisis for farmers. Beyond economic struggles, climate change is creating a new level of uncertainty for American farmers. Rising temperatures, severe droughts, and extreme weather events are making farming more difficult than ever. How climate change is devastating farming. Historic droughts. In recent years, farmers in the Midwest have seen record-breaking droughts, destroying crops and forcing them to rely on expensive irrigation. Stronger storms and floods, more hurricanes, floods, and tornadoes are wiping out entire harvests. New pests and diseases. Warmer temperatures allow invasive species and plant diseases to spread, killing crops. Water shortages. The western United States is facing a major water crisis, making it harder to irrigate fields. For many farmers, climate change is the biggest challenge of all, because unlike tariffs or corporate policies, this problem isn't going away. Unless new solutions are found, many farms could become completely unproductive in the next 50 years. The future of American farming, can it be saved? With corporate greed, foreign competition, automation, and climate change all hitting farmers at once, the future of American farming looks uncertain. Can John Deere recover? Will small farmers survive? Or is the era of family farms coming to an end? The next decade will be a turning point, and what happens next will determine the future of American agriculture for generations. What do you think? Will small farmers find a way to survive? Will John Deere reverse course? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.